Hi guys, welcome to this introductory video where we are going to talk about deep learning, and in this section we are going to talk about deep learning in detail. We will understand the science behind it, how it functions, what it does, because before we start with deep learning technologies like CNN, RNN, LSTM, etc., we need to understand what deep learning is because essentially they are subset of deep learning. And to understand deep learning, we need to understand how our brain function because essentially deep learning is trying to mimic the brain functionality. So if we understand how brain functions and how it communicates with other organs in the body, it will provide us a good foundation. So let me show you this diagram. This will help you in understanding how brain functions. So basically, brain itself is an organ which is situated in our head. And of course, the nervous system consists of many complex cells and tissues. There are lots of things in our spinal cord which contributes to nervous system, but we are not going to talk about human nervous system in detail here. We are essentially looking how brain interacts with all the organs in the body. So let's say you are trying to lift something with your hand. In that case, our brain will send signals to your hand using neurons. And these arrows here, these three arrows, are representing neurons here. Neurons are also called nerve cells. So these are individual cells, and there are millions of such cells in our body. So I have used only three, but in reality, there will be lots of neurons between brain and the hand. So our brain sends the signals and hands take the action or whatever organ you are using. If you're trying to run, your brain will be sending signals to the legs and so on and so forth. So you can think of these neurons as wires. So in our homes, in our house, we use wires to connect electrical equipments like fan, AC, washing machine to the power outlet. So power outlet could be situated at one place, but the equipment could be placed in some other location of the house. So when you turn on the switch in your power outlet, electricity flows through these wires to the equipment. And that's how we turn on and turn off these equipments. And that's how essentially our brain function, and that's how essentially deep learning function. So going back to deep learning, it is essentially a subset of machine learning. And the good part about deep learning is that we don't need to specify features. If you have some background in machine learning, that will help you here. I have a course on machine learning. Maybe you can go through some of the free videos that will give you some background. And if you already have some background, you're good. You will understand that when we are dealing with something like supervised machine learning, we need to specify the features. And when we say features, we essentially means variables like weight, sales, etc. For example, if you look at this spreadsheet, I have got it from the Election Commission of India. And this spreadsheet is basically a data set which contains information about the political parties, their categories, their position, and things like that. So here you can see we have name of the party, then number of the votes, and gender information, age. This position here indicates the position of the candidate. So one simply means that they are winner, and anything other than the one simply means that they couldn't win. Now, if we were to run a predictive model on this particular data set, our position will become dependent variable, that is our output, and we will use rest of the information here to find out if these variables, if these values are contributing anything towards the output. So all these columns here are representing the variables. These are called independent variables in the world of machine learning. And yes, depending upon the data set, you will have different variables, like if you are building a machine learning model to predict a person may have diabetes or not. You may have a data set where you will have variables like height, weight, BMI, etc. These variables are also called features. In a typical machine learning model, you can select all the variables in your analysis or only few of them. For example, in this data set, you may decide that st_ codes may not be a very important variable for your analysis. You may also drop year column here. And this is a very important activity in machine learning, where you identify and select few variables or features for your model building activity. And this activity is called feature engineering or feature selection. Now, process is very exhaustive, and as I have mentioned earlier, if you have a background in machine learning, it will help you in understanding what I'm talking about. But this is beyond the scope of this course because this is beyond the scope of deep learning. Now you may ask why. It's precisely because this is the biggest advantage of deep learning over supervised machine learning techniques like logistic regression, where you have to manually specify the variable you want to use, whether you want to use any specific variable or all of them. But as a data scientist, it is your job to manually decide the variable which you want to use for your analysis for your model. But in case of deep learning, we don't need to specify features. Our model will automatically detect them and use them appropriately to produce the desired output. That's why it is so popular in fields like image classification, where if we were to create a supervised machine learning model for image classification, it will be a very complex model because we will have to break down entire image in pixels and their features. And we may still miss something because it's really complex and may not get desired results. But in deep learning, our models can automatically detect features and produce far better results for this particular application. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that supervised machine learning models are not good. That is far from truth. They are the most widely used techniques in the industry. They have got wider applications for predictive modeling. It's just that for certain applications like image classification or driverless cars, it is close to impossible to perform feature engineering successfully. It's very complicated to identify all those required features. And deep learning helps us in these applications by automatically detecting those features and removing need of manual feature engineering. So that's enough for introduction of deep learning. In this section, that is in the next few videos, we are going to cover every aspect of deep learning. Thank you.